In the heart of Arabia, long before Islam, stood the Kaaba, the sacred house of Allah, built by Prophet Ibrahim and his son Ismail, peace be upon them. It was meant to be a beacon of Tawheed, pure monotheism, a place where only Allah, the one without partners, would be worshipped. Generations after Ibrahim, peace be upon him, the people of Makkah continued this legacy. They honored the Kaaba, performed Hajj, and remembered the one true God. But as time passed, the light of guidance began to fade. The memory of Ibrahim's message weakened, and ignorance, jahiliyyah, began to creep into their hearts. At first, it started subtly. People still claimed to believe in Allah, but they began to associate others with Him. They made intermediaries, idols, and symbols, not out of denial, but out of misplaced devotion. The Quran describes this in many places, and most of them do not believe in Allah except that they associate others with Him. This verse captures the essence of what happened in Makkah. The people did not reject Allah, they simply added partners beside Him, believing that these idols would bring them closer to their Creator. So how did it all begin? How did the land that once followed Ibrahim, peace be upon him, turn into a center of idol worship? The story begins with a man named Amr ibn Luhayy al-Khuzai. He was a respected leader of the tribe of Khuza'ah, known for his generosity, strength, and influence. People admired him deeply. They trusted his judgment and followed his traditions without question. It is authentically narrated in Sahih al-Bukhari that the Prophet Muhammad, may Allah's peace and blessings be upon him, said, "I saw Amr ibn Luhayy dragging his intestines in the hellfire because he was the first to change the religion of the Arabs and introduce idols among them." During his travels to the Levant, Amr witnessed the people of Al-Balqa and Sham worshipping idols. He was impressed by their wealth and apparent power, and he thought that their idols were the reason for their prosperity. So he brought back with him the idol Hubal and placed it inside the Kaaba, the very house that had been built for the worship of Allah alone. And thus, the first idol stood beside the Kaaba. From that moment, the sanctity of the house began to fade in the hearts of the people. Tribe after tribe, family after family, began bringing their own idols to Makkah. By the time the Prophet Muhammad, may Allah's peace and blessings be upon him, was born, 360 idols surrounded the Kaaba, one for almost every day of the year. They were made of stone, wood, and even gold. There was Hubal, placed inside the Kaaba as the chief idol. There was Al-Lat, worshipped by the people of Taif, Al-Uzza, venerated near Nakhla, and Manat, near the Red Sea between Makkah and Medina. The Quran itself mentions these false gods by name. Have you seen Al-Lat and Al-Uzza, and Manat, the third, the other? These idols were not just statues. They represented a system, a worldview that corrupted hearts and society. The people still performed Hajj, but their rituals had changed. They would circle the Kaaba naked, chanting distorted phrases, claiming it made them pure. They would call upon idols for rain, victory, and blessings, believing they could intercede with Allah. The Prophet, may Allah's peace and blessings be upon him, later said in an authentic narration, "The worst of people are those who will be alive when the hour comes, and those who take graves as places of worship." This was a warning against the same tendency, turning symbols and people into objects of worship beside Allah. As idol worship grew, Makkah's soul began to decay. Greed, pride, and injustice took root. The poor were ignored. Orphans were oppressed. Women were treated as property, and infanticide became common. The Quran later described this darkness in words that pierced through history. And when the female infant buried alive is asked, for what sin she was killed. The people of Makkah had lost their moral compass. They had forgotten that the Kaaba was not theirs. It was Allah's house. And though they still called themselves the descendants of Ibrahim, their practices were far from his teachings. Each idol had a story, a tribe, and a ritual. People would make offerings, sacrifices, and vows before them. If they traveled, they would carry a stone from the sanctuary and worship it wherever they went. The Arabs even had minor idols for protection, trade, and love. They sought blessings from powerless stones, while neglecting the one who created them all. Yet, Allah never leaves His creation without a reminder. Even in that age of darkness, there were still a few who held on to the truth, people known as the Hunafa, the followers of Ibrahim's monotheism, peace be upon him. Among them were Zayd ibn Amr ibn Luhayy, Waraqah ibn Nawfal, Uthman ibn al-Huwayrith, and Ubaydullah ibn Jahsh. They rejected idol worship, refused to eat from sacrifices made to false gods, and declared that only Allah should be worshipped. Zayd ibn Amr would stand beside the Kaaba and cry out, "O Quraysh, none of you is upon the religion of Ibrahim except me." He died before the Prophet's mission began, but the Prophet, may Allah's peace and blessings be upon him, said of him, according to authentic narrations, that he would be raised as a nation on his own on the Day of Judgment. Through men like Zayd, the memory of Tawheed was kept alive, small sparks of light in a sea of darkness. Meanwhile, the custodians of the Kaaba, the Quraysh, grew powerful. They benefited from the pilgrimage season, where tribes would come to worship their idols. Makkah became a center of trade, politics, and influence, but its spirituality was hollow. The irony was painful. The city built to worship Allah alone had become the hub of shirk. They prayed to idols for victory, but they would still claim that Allah was the creator of all things. As Allah revealed in the Quran, if you asked them who created the heavens and the earth, they would surely say, Allah, yet they are deluded. This is the confusion that defined the pre-Islamic Arabs. They believed in Allah, but they did not submit to Him alone. But Allah, in His mercy, was preparing something greater, the return of His message to the heart of the world. The Kaaba that had been surrounded by idols would one day be purified again. The house that was darkened by shirk would once again be filled with light, and the city that had lost its soul would soon become the center of Islam, Makkah al-Mukarramah. That moment was near. The time was drawing close. In the next episode, we will enter the world of Jahiliyyah society, where honor, pride, and power ruled, and see how the lives of women reflected the spiritual decay of the time. Because to understand the light of the Prophet, may Allah's peace and blessings be upon him, we must first understand the depth of the darkness before him.